Everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into another dating topic: provider men versus financial equality. Now, this is part of a series of videos in which I have done some research in regards to hot topics that are trending from the standpoint of men and then from the standpoint of women. This is one of the topics that are standpoint from women, and it pretty much dives into the aspect of provider men versus financial equality and almost the battle between how some women want to have that dynamic where some people call this traditional, but the traditional type of guy who's a leader and whatnot and provides financial stability versus the idea of financial equality, meaning that if the woman is in the work world and she is in a space equal to the man, that she no longer is dependent on him, and eliminating the quote unquote need for the man. And I'm going to assume by replacing that with the general idea of the want, but not necessarily the need, or eliminating the duty aspect of that dynamic. So first, I'm just going to break down like the two main points and the way that it was worded within my search, just to give a kind of basis of the layout of what's being described. So on one hand, it says many women in their 20s on TikTok promote provider masculinity, in quotes, wanting men to pay for dates, lead, and create financial security. Once again, mind you, this is from a search. So if the wording seems like it's kind of however it is because this was a search to kind of compile this topic and the other topics that I am doing videos. So the other half of it was, meanwhile, other women, especially career-focused women in their 30s and 40s, view strict provider expectations as outdated or transactional. And it goes to follow to say, the controversy usually centers around these several key topics that evolved to this main topic, which is splitting bills, stay-at-home motherhood, soft girl era, in quotes, hyper independence, whether feminism changed dating expectations too much. So breaking all this down, the truth is that though I understand both points of how it's laid out, as far as, like I said, coming across the topic, I actually don't even think that it plays out that way, but I'll get to that in a second. First, just breaking down each individual one, and to say that there's a basis for both, for why they exist. And mind you, in this topic, the controversy as far as within the search is deemed from how women are viewing this controversy, I'm guessing amongst each other in their own speaking chambers in regards to this, because this was not one of the subjects that was focused around what's the top 5 for like men subjects at the current time. So keep that in mind, that this is a topic that's coming from the perspective of women, what's a hot topic for them. And I think with that, you would then have women who've probably experienced financial dependency on some men. And if things go wrong, it creates a dynamic where it's like, I don't have freedom from this situation. And that is why the need to want to be financially independent and not have that whole leadership role connected to it from the guy. That way it creates another level of independence. So independence of freedom, independence from financials, and plus independence of leadership and their own level of security. Also too, no expectations if they're able to pay for their own lifestyle or anything of that sort. There's no expectations that is expected of them. Now, on the flip side, there is, and the way the research showed was that there's more focusing from the younger ones, are the ones who kind of agree with the idea of being taken care of, which would make sense because it allows them to have that more, I'm going to stay at home, take care of the kids, and do all those kind of things while the guy does what he does, which is always the traditional dynamic of the ebb and flow of that relationship dynamic, how that always worked. So those are the basic breakdowns of why, or the benefits that would be for each one, and why those viewpoints would even exist in the first place. But I'm going to challenge that to say that I think in modern times now, that that's not even the way that it is, that it's actually going down in terms of it fighting each other. Now, I do think there are some people who might feel because the dating market is changing that might want things to be more traditional. But for the most part, what you have is a big, I would say, surge of people wanting a little bit of both. And I think that is kind of more the reality of it, of what you see out there, which is people wanting that there are women want their financial independency plus traditional behavior on the men to do what they do at the same time. Now, that may not be the case across the board. It definitely is the case at some places, but I don't think that's the case across the board completely, because there are still going to be people who actually enjoy the idea of being led, because actually when you are holding up the weight of the leadership in those roles, there's a lot of weight on the shoulders, and some people just don't want to deal with that weight or that responsibility of it, and deal with other responsibilities, like, for example, taking care of the kids, managing doctor's appointments for the family, everybody in the household, including the husband, whatever the case is, who's got doctor's appointments when, who's got appointments in general, who's got this and that. Some women might feel that that's a better or more, they're more adapted to that role of responsibility than worrying about how are we going to manage the bills. There's new bills that came up. How are we going to be able to handle that, integrating those new situations into what's already the current situation, along with financial situation, along with maintaining our future wealth not wealth, but our future retirement or stability down the line, and maybe even incorporating generational wealth also down the line. So those sometimes are things that people don't want to necessarily deal with. So that is the topic. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below in regards to this. What do you favor? What is your viewpoint on one or the other? Do you think that it's unfair or unbalanced when someone tries to combine both? Because at that point, the idea is each one has a pro and a con. If they're both combined, essentially what you're doing is eliminating the con from each and just adding the pros, which obviously the issue with that becomes, if a situation is all pro and pro for one gender, then it means that it's con and con for the other gender. So what are your thoughts, guys, down below? And as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.